Hello, everyone. Zach here from the Carnival of Randomness on behalf of our sponsor, Upsitnik and Associates. In these unprecedented times, we reflect on our future, both in the next few weeks and months, but also the upcoming years and decades. And it's time to prepare for that future. Upsitnik and Associates has been contacted by many healthcare workers, as well as old and new clients, to prepare wills, powers of attorney, and advance directives, also called a living will. All of you need these documents. So don't say you don't have any assets to speak of, no children or other dependents. Regardless of the circumstances now, you will need a will for today and tomorrow. Al Upsitnik feels so strongly about having wills and other needed documents prepared that Upsitnik and Associates can prepare your will, power of attorney, and living will at no charge. You heard that correct. No charge until the end of 2020. No hidden fees or gimmicks. Al feels so strongly about planning for the future at this time that he is willing to assist you with your future. Trust Upsitnik and Associates, attorneys for 42 years, from the Supreme Court to Alaska and everywhere in between. You can find them online, upsitnikslaw.com, on Facebook, Upsitnik and Associates, or call them toll-free 1-866-391-3299 to prepare for your future. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Carnival of Randomness. I'm Zach. Rye is joining us once again.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, good. Your levels are actually recording this time. Anyway, this stemmed from a conversation you and I had not long before we were recording this, and you brought up your love of Al Pacino as one of the best actors out there, correct?
Absolutely.
And so, I think, then you pitched this idea to me. So I want you, in your words, to explain to the people what they're about to hear and what we're going to ramble on for about an hour or so.
Yeah, it sort of stemmed from this idea of what is a movie star? Like, what does that word or that term mean? Especially now, with access to 24/7 celebrity gossip, it's sort of much easier to become a celebrity or to get attention these days.
Mm-hmm.
So has the sort of the star part of it been diluted, and who do we think sort of, is a movie star, who isn't, and why?
Okay, so we started with you bringing up Al. You would say he is a movie star, yes?
Yeah, I think maybe we should sort of set down our criteria of what we think that means.
I agree. So lay it down. And then I know we're gonna, because we talked a little before we recorded this about prepping and divided that up into some categories. So you lay it out.
Well, for me, the sort of movie star thing is you have to have both the be in the movies and then the star part. So, I think you should be in some iconic movies, but I think you also have to at least enjoy the sort of star part, the fame, the attention.
Okay.
And have both. And I think movie star, I also sort of prefer the guys who weren't necessarily hired for their looks, like guys who had to work for it.
Right, and we do have some of that. And I should mention that we're focusing mainly on the male actors this time.
Yeah,
I know at some point in the future we'll come back and do one with the female actors or actresses, whatever word they prefer these days.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, let's get right into it. So, by those criteria, we have Al Pacino. And,
yeah.
And I think, where would you classify him? When he was younger, obviously Godfather, you're looking a very good-looking man.
Yeah, I always thought so, but he was never sort of... Hollywood didn't seem to see him that way. In fact, he was kind of known as being not really leading man material in sort of the romantic comedy, attractive male way.
Which is kind of odd.
He was... I think that's why he did some of the more unusual movies that he did.
Okay. I can see it.
But he absolutely has, the movie star thing. He loves, I think, sort of being a star, and he's got the swagger.
And if you look at some of his later movies, he was picking some interesting things.
He's completely sort of given up the acting thing, largely.
And I'm wondering now if it's because maybe he just really wants to enjoy it.
I think so. I think, you do it as long as he's done it, and he's given himself to some incredibly serious, dark, depressing movies. I think he just doesn't care anymore. I think he's just having fun.
I think so at this point.
He did act more, like in The Irishman. That was more actual acting than we've seen from him for quite a while.
Oh, that was a really good movie. You and I watched that, actually.
Yeah. Um, so I think that was kind of interesting. So there's some of it in there, but I wouldn't expect it from him sort of every movie the way he did, when you're trying to establish yourself.
Well, and actually, here we go. Speaking of the Irishman, it was good to see the return of Joe Pesci.
Yeah, because he's another, I would say. I think maybe younger people maybe not so familiar with him because he did take all that time away.
He did, after Eight Heads in a Duffel Bag.
But to me, again, he sort of has the movie star thing. Like he's iconic. Like you hear about Joe Pesci and sort of pop culture jokes, even in like rap songs. Like he's got that thing, right?
Oh yeah, because I mean, look at some of the movies he did. I mean, he was in Goodfellas. You're talking one of the premier gangster movies of all time.
Yeah, so like yeah, he's got that sort of cool factor about him that makes you a star.
He definitely does. And then, do you think, because we were discussing it earlier, it has anything to do with like based on age and the era they came up in?
I think it does because it was pretty unforgiving, I think, back then, like you really had to work your butt off to be anywhere in Hollywood back then. Like they didn't want Al for The Godfather, right?
Yeah, they definitely did not.
They almost fired Coppola because he stood by Al, and that sort of gives you an idea of how sort of just unrelenting it was back then, that you could be Al Pacino and they would punch you.
Yeah.
So I think just those older age groups where it was just, they just had to work so hard for every little sort of scrap and role that they got.
Well, exactly. And especially when they weren't, especially at that point, really hiring people for their looks, you really had to be a great actor to stand out.
Well, that's it. And because, you're looking way sort of pre-internet, even pre sort of television sort of being in every home, it was a lot harder to remain relevant. There wasn't 24/7 TMZ celebrity gossip.
Well, exactly, because even, growing up in the mid to late 80s as we did, it was really difficult to actually see a movie if you weren't going to the theater.
Yeah, and you didn't have that sort of access to constant, celebrity information,
No, you definitely did not.
So I think that's sort of a huge part of it as well. They remained relevant for real acting reasons instead of just, whatever.
Yeah.
Today you can remain in the headlines, as the Kardashians have proven for a decade plus by doing absolutely nothing.
Very true. And that's weird. And that's an idea for another show, is basically to look at where do we think the Hollywood shifted towards moving away from acting and just going for, like the movie star looks.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to who you would classify as movie stars. But the thing with Joe is, I don't think he really likes the spotlight.
No, I don't think he does, but in his case it's kind of weird because most of the actors who don't like the spotlight, I wouldn't, like a lot of them don't have the star part of movie star, but for him he's such an icon that it almost doesn't matter. Like he's surpassed himself. He's Joe Pesci.
I think so, and I think the reason, because he took off, almost 2 decades he was basically out of work.
Yeah.
Well, not out of work, out of the movies, because he was doing his music tour. I think he does a jazz tour.
Yeah.
And I think he eventually just kind of got tired of the limelight and everything and just took a step back.
Mm-hmm. So like you look at, and you and I talked about this, like Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about, and I mentioned that I think he is probably the last living actor who has successfully been able to separate his acting career from his personal life.
Yeah, but he's sort of like, he's the anti-Joe Pesci, right? Like, he's the guy who also doesn't like the limelight, but it worked for him. Like, he's an amazing actor. He has the career to be a movie star, but he's completely managed to keep the star part basically down. Like, you don't hear a celebrity gossip about him. He doesn't like practically do interviews. Just the whole star thing is doesn't exist
Yeah, I
for
mean,
Dan.
very rarely have I even seen him give an interview, and his first break in acting. I know he's on another one right now. He basically dropped off the face of the earth for 2 or 3 years and went to Italy to learn how to become a cobbler.
Yeah, so like, but for Joe Pesci, like he tried to do that, but it didn't matter because he's kind of just an icon of himself.
And that's the thing, and I think a lot of it also has to do with what roles you take, because Daniel Day-Lewis, while he's done amazing acting roles, has never had one of those ones that's known for their catchphrases or something.
Yeah,
He
I mean,
never had
it's
a
the
moment like, what am I, a clown to you? Do I make you laugh? The whole
yeah,
Pesci thing from Goodfellas.
exactly, so anyway, that's why I think, Joe Pesci's sort of fascinating.
It is. He's a fascinating case because while he doesn't seek out that fame, it was given to him
Yeah.
by the public. And so he's, I think, a special case all on his own. But who else would you throw in for, like, the movie stars that have embraced every part of it? I know we talked Warren Beatty before.
Yeah. Jack Nicholson is iconic movie star.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because he had the whole sort of being in the movies, but then almost even more the fame part. Like you could tell he really loved the fame, the attention, the parties.
Oh, absolutely. And, how many countless times did you hear about random celebrities partying at his house parties because they met him at a Lakers game or something?
Well, that was it, right? Like Jack's house was the premier party spot in Hollywood from, every all the celebrity gossip it seemed like for everybody. Like you could be 19, 20, 21 and you'd be partying at Jack's house.
Exactly. It didn't matter because he really enjoyed it. And that's the thing, like, you never hear about him, but at the same time, he never really tries to hide.
No, so like he absolutely was the movie star.
Yeah, I think he would definitely be the movie star.
Arnold.
Arnie. I mean, there's
Arnie.
no man who loves the public attention more than Arnie.
No, and I mean he's so like almost so far on his own because he almost had an entire genre to himself. Like there will never be another action star like Arnold.
No, and I guess you can kind of make this weird comparison. Like, there's the Mount Rushmore, the peak of the mountain, and then there's Arnie sitting on top of it.
Yeah, like there's other huge movie stars, but they almost all sort of followed in his footsteps. They sort of tried to do what he did.
Yeah.
Whereas he was the first, and he's always had that unique thing, right? The accent.
Yeah, the accent, the delivery.
Just and being in such iconic movies, right place, right time,
Oh, you
right
think about some of
movies.
the biggest blockbusters of the era, and some of the most quotable movies were him. The Conan movies, Terminator,
Predator,
yeah,
Commando.
Predator, Commando. I'm gonna say Kindergarten Cop. It's not a
Yeah.
tumor.
Yeah, like just everything. So, he's so far just out of the world movie star.
Yeah.
I'd also put up like Harrison Ford.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you talk some iconic roles. He's got two of the biggest.
Yeah,
You know,
and just
dude, you're Han Solo and Indiana Jones.
exactly
That's all
like
you
what are
need.
you really gonna do?
Exactly.
Um,
But
well,
how is he with the wanting the attention? I really don't know.
I think at this point he's a little tired. The problem for Harrison, and he's sort of been more upfront about this more recently, is that he never actually liked Star Wars. The only reason he continued to do Han Solo is because that was the only way that he could continue to be Indiana Jones.
Yeah, they leveraged him. They said, well, if you come out of these, say goodbye to Indiana Jones, and he really liked being Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I think Han Solo would have been absolutely a one and done if they didn't have that leverage on him.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, that's all he wanted. He only wanted one and done, but
And so the problem is that, of course, Star Wars became a juggernaut, whereas Indiana Jones, well, sort of beloved, you can't exactly say that the franchise anywhere competes with Star Wars.
No, I wouldn't say that. But I think I would say probably pound for pound, fan for fan, Indiana Jones has a bigger cult following.
Oh yeah, but it's sort of, I imagine for Harrison it's a little bit of a problem because for what, like 40 years now, it's almost been exclusively fans screaming for Han Solo, for a character he didn't really like in a movie series he didn't really like doing.
Yeah, but sometimes it is what it
So
is.
yeah, so it's in a weird way, it's almost like the James Bond curse, right? Like you can never get away from being James Bond after you've been James Bond.
No, I mean Pierce Brosnan never really did.
No, his career never really was any, he could never replicate the success.
Mm.
And I think the same thing will happen to Daniel Craig.
Possibly, although he was kind of the same style of actor before.
Yeah.
That gritty action star, especially, his early films back in England, but
So I think that was
he might survive it because he's playing a Bond that's exactly like his movie characters.
it's possible, but I think that was sort of the problem with Harrison Ford, where I think he liked the attention, but it was just sort of like it always felt like he wanted to talk about things other than Star Wars, and everybody's just sort of like, no, shut up, we just want to hear about Star Wars.
Well, I don't blame him. But eventually everybody just gives into it.
Well, that's it.
Through their own choice or just for sanity's sake.
It's kind of like bands, right? Like they'll have that one or two absolute hit songs, and it doesn't matter if they make 45 other, albums. People, 50 years, 60 years later, like people still want to hear the Rolling Stones sing Painted Black.
Yeah, it's like, guys, we've had 18 other albums. Don't care.
Exactly. Sing the one song from 65 years ago that we like.
Well, I mean, it is kind of true.
So I think that was it. But obviously there's the other action stars, Stallone.
See, I think Stallone is a big fan of the attention.
I think so.
Not in a bad way, but like he's never really tried to hide from it.
No.
But,
so I think
and again, he fulfills the megastar requirements for the movies,
Yeah. Rocky.
Rambo,
Mm-hmm.
Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Exactly.
But yeah, and again, do you think he was kind of hired for his looks? Because I know his career started off with that really weird softcore porn movie.
I mean, he is the Italian stallion.
Well, that was his character. I think it was A Night at Kitty and Studs or something.
Yeah, but then that's basically it. Almost people started to refer to him almost more as that than his name.
Right.
I think there's an element of that. I mean, he was, especially when he was younger, he was a good-looking guy, and he also followed in sort of the Arnold thing, right? So he was buff. He was buff for most of his young career.
Well, exactly. And if you look at his older roles, man, did he have some, like that buff is like Cobra was a great one.
Yeah.
I've never seen Cobra.
Yeah.
But he had that gritty, tough guy attitude and look to him.
All right, here's another one. We both love this guy, and he's sort of interesting because he's got the fame part, but he almost doesn't have the movie thing, and yet he's become iconic almost in a way that surpasses Joe Pesci.
Ooh, who dat?
Danny Trejo.
Oh, well, I mean, the man is a cultural icon.
Exactly, but even he jokes that he doesn't even remember, like, he watches movies and he sees himself in them and he doesn't remember doing them.
Well, exactly. I think in one interview he was, watching a movie with his kids. He's like, I was about 20 minutes into it, and I'm like, hey, I'm in this.
Exactly, So, like, I mean, he spent most of his career doing sort of little tiny bit parts, sort of little character parts. And it really almost wasn't until Machete that he kind of had like a breakout thing where he was the star.
Yeah, where he was the star, I would say, because you have to chalk it up to he really got a big break after Heat.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the movie that set him on everybody's radar, to be sure.
Yeah. And then he was in Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Oh, great movie.
So that also put him up. But, like, until sort of Machete, I wouldn't say he would have been maybe, like, a more household name, but it feels like now he's sort of iconic in a way that almost surpasses, like, Pesci or the other guys.
Oh, my God, he, I think, has transcended all of the other actors just in legend.
And it's all props to him because, of course, if you don't know about his past,
well, I mean,
he
to sum it up, basically, he was talking to a casting director and he said, can you act like a convict? And he had done, 10 years in Sing Sing?
Yeah, or one of those Rikers or something.
Or some big prison. He'd done several years in prison. He's like, yeah, I think I can make it work.
So this is a guy who absolutely had to work for it. Literally bottom of the barrel.
Oh, God, yeah.
And he did for, 20 years, probably more before he really got his big break.
Oh, I would say, yeah. And now, now he gets a lot of top billing. It's not necessarily in the greatest of movies, but he is starring.
Yeah, so, like, it's cool. He's sort of another one of those fascinating movie stars where he doesn't necessarily have one part, but he's a star.
And plus, I would have to say, from everything I've heard, super nice guy.
Yeah.
From literally, I mean, I have not heard many people say a bad word about Danny Trejo, nor should they.
Exactly.
But that's interesting because, there's so many parts to what determines the movie star because, like you say, he didn't really have the big, huge acting roles, but everybody knows who he is.
Exactly. So all of those guys that we've talked about, they're from sort of the last old generation. You're looking at guys, Arnold's the youngest of that group, he's 73, and then you're looking all the way up to Jack Nicholson, who's 83.
Right.
So they're sort of part of that really old group. If you move down then sort of a few years, then you're starting to get into guys, and we both love him, Denzel Washington.
Oh, and I firmly believe that now that Sir Daniel Day-Lewis is on hiatus, I'm not going to say retired because he'll be back. But I would say now that he's not acting anymore, Denzel Washington is the greatest living actor in the world.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that.
Absolutely. So he's 65. Bruce Willis, again, sort of coming in a little later. He's 65.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a little bit later to the whole sort of action thing.
Yeah, but again, he came out with, and he had a lot of iconic roles.
Yeah, and I would say, again, I think he liked the star part.
Oh, absolutely.
Daniel Day is 63, but, you and I have talked about already, he doesn't have the sort of star part. He doesn't like talking to cameras.
No, he's not a fan, but he's still a legend.
His other British contemporary, Gary Oldman's a bit the same. He's 62, and he does the same thing where, he's had some iconic roles. He has sort of the talent, but he doesn't like the fame part. He sort of lives very quietly.
He kind of does, but man, does he have some out there roles.
Yeah. Very strange, strange picks.
Fifth Element.
Yeah, that pretty much sums up probably one of the weirdest and hammiest performances I've certainly ever seen from him.
It was very Alan Rickman in Die Hard.
Yeah.
What's that?
And then I would put Antonio Banderas. He's 60, and he's sort of, I think, part of that last sort of 60 to 70-year-old group.
Yeah, and I mean, he's got some big movies on his, Once Upon a Time in Mexico again.
Yeah, Zorro.
Zorro, Desperado, he did the whole Robert Rodriguez Mexican trilogy, or the Mariachi trilogy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he was, he was the Spanish actor, right? He managed to make...
Yeah, oh yeah, when you thought of Spain and actors, you thought of Antonio Banderas for many a year.
Exactly, and I think that, ended up working in his favor when you could sort of have a niche that's all your own, where you're like the guy,
Exactly.
of
But
a
but
certain ethnicity that you get called.
but to be fair, do you think that was part of the thing for Danny Trejo?
Um, it was, but I mean, they were sort of flip sides, right? Because Antonio was, in most of the movies, he was sort of the good guy, right? Or at least the kind of lead, whereas
Well, right, but I
Danny
mean,
Trejo,
Trejo's entire look, the big, the tattoos everywhere, like the real grizzled look, and he even admitted it in an interview. He said, a lot of times somebody just says, "Hey, somebody go find that Mexican guy with the big tattoo on his chest."
oh, I think it definitely, yeah. I mean, he's made a career playing, scary guys.
Yeah, and he's very good at it.
Yeah. So it's sort of interesting, uh, and I think he's sort of interesting because he's accepted that. Some people wouldn't, like everybody wants to be the lead,
Yeah, everybody wants to be the romantic lead.
but he seems to be quite happy just to be in movies and, you know, to sort of know who he is and,
Yep.
so um
He's made his peace with it, I would imagine.
yeah, he's made lots of money and such with it.
Alright, but now, okay, so we've done like the 60s, and now I think actually here answered a question I posed earlier about when the switch happened from acting chops to more looks.
Yeah,
Because now I think when you start to get to like the 45s to 60s, like your George Clooney's, like your Brad Pitts.
yeah, a lot of people, and especially for those of us who grew up in the late 80s and 90s, these were the quintessential movie stars. These were the hot guys, right?
Yeah,
Like all the girls had Brad Pitt posters up.
yeah, the heartthrobs.
And it's so kind of weird now to think that they're pushing 60.
Well, what was the one that you thought was weird? Was DiCaprio?
Yeah, like DiCaprio is almost 50. He's 46, so he's pushing on there, but like you don't think of DiCaprio as being 50.
No, that is weird.
Like this this is Titanic, right?
Yeah, peak
You know,
1997 right there.
yeah, like he was the guy, and yeah, now it's like 50 just sounded so old when we were young.
Yeah, now he's another, late middle-aged actor.
Yeah, pretty much. But you sort of see the start now where casting, just became so much more about finding really good-looking people, sort of regardless of whether they necessarily sort of fit the role in other ways. Like, is it realistic that a doctor is going to look like Brad Pitt? Not really.
All right, well, on that vein, where would you classify them? Because,
Like,
in like the movie star thing.
I think they are absolutely movie stars, but I just think this is sort of where it becomes a little bit the movie star thing starts to get a little more diluted. You're starting to get people who didn't necessarily have to work so hard for it. They were sort of hired for their looks, or sometimes they had sort of success early on, young, when they were quite young, and they were also sort of on the front of the development of like the internet, so getting attention was a lot easier.
That's true, and I think the switch to social media definitely tweaked things around.
Like for some of the older ones, like Cruise and them, they did have their movies in like the 80s, but it's pretty hard to sort of think that the internet hasn't continued to help them have success, the past 20 or 30 years.
Oh my God, absolutely.
Yeah.
How many Tom Cruise movies are kept alive by people on the internet?
Or just anything. I mean, it was probably 20 or something years ago that he did that ridiculous couch jumping thing on Oprah, and you're still seeing that pop up now and then as kind of a meme, right?
God, I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm
so like...
I can't forget about that now.
So like, it's not a great look, but it almost doesn't matter now because any attention is attention, right?
Exactly, and he has plenty of attention.
So there's sort of that. Yeah, you just sort of start to see this, the star thing kind of mutate now, where, yeah, it's more about looks, it's more just about keeping your name out there, even if it's bad.
Mm-mm.
Um, there are a few where I would say they're sort of still stars and they're not that way.
Okay, who would you say?
Idris Elba.
Uh, but the thing about Idris Elba is he has so many irons in the fire. Like, I think he just released a rap album a while ago.
Oh yeah, he's one of these sort of multi-threat, multi-talented guys, but he just like and he's part of that group. He's 48, so he's almost perfectly right between like DiCaprio and Matt Damon.
Yeah, and a very fine actor.
Yeah, and a good-looking guy, but he doesn't rest on that. He picks roles that are challenging, that are dark,
Mm.
and he's a good actor,
Oh, he's a very good actor.
you know. Whereas I wouldn't necessarily say that about a lot of the other guys. Like, I think outside of one or two movies, I'm not sure Matt Damon is really a great actor.
No, I mean he had his what was it, Goodwill Hunting?
Yeah, that's sort of the one where everybody's like, oh my god, he can super act, and then he kind of never did again.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he did a good job in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But
Brad Pitt, quite frankly, is a terrible actor.
yeah, I mean, I don't mind him, but he is what he is. He's a very specific thing.
Yeah. Here's one that absolutely fits the movie star thing, but again, his acting is a flavor for some people. Nicolas Cage.
Oh God, Nick Cage.
Some people love him, some people hate him. You can't deny he is a movie
Oh
star.
my God, he is a brightly shining star.
You don't say.
You don't say. And I'm a fan of him. I like his movies. I like him as a person. He's an interesting cat.
I think he is too. I mean, again, I think at this point it's because he sort of seems to have just kind of accepted that he's Nicolas Cage and he just makes the most crazy, sort of out there weird movies.
I actually just watched one recently with him in it, and I'm gonna completely biff on the name of it for a minute, but it'll come to me.
Mm.
But it was like a day in his life.
Ah.
Let's put it that way. But we'll keep talking, and it'll come to me.
Yeah, so like, yeah, he's not for everybody. Obviously, he's kind of reached meme status, like living meme.
He did, yeah.
But it doesn't matter because he's Nicolas Cage and he's, a super movie star.
Didn't he win an Oscar?
I think he may have, yeah, at one point.
Yeah, for Leaving Las Vegas.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, but it was a great movie.
Yeah. The thing about Nicolas Cage that I think endears him to people is that it doesn't matter if it's like the most D-list, cheap, straight-to-video movie. He gives 1,000% every role.
Oh my God, like, dude, he was in everything that was weird back then. I mean, Raising Arizona, great movie.
Yeah.
It was weird.
And still does. Like, he's, most people probably know he's run into some tax problems, some money problems, so he's doing a lot of these sort of D-list, terrible straight-to-video movies, but it doesn't matter because he still just sort of gives it his all, right? Like, he doesn't phone it in.
And I remember the name of the movie. It was called Mandy.
Mm.
And it was just weird.
Recent movie? Recent movie?
Yeah, 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was weird, and like I say, it's a day in the life of Nick Cage, and I can't figure it out.
I don't think anybody would be able to figure him out.
No, but, he rolls with it.
So I think that's why people love Nick Cage.
Yeah, I love him or hate him, he is what he is, and he's proud of it, I think. So, yeah, Nick Cage,
Yeah.
I would say definite movie star.
Absolutely. I'd say another one sort of in that group is Eddie Murphy.
Ooh, Ooh, interesting.
You know, his career hasn't been so good maybe in the past sort of decade, but I mean, he had so much success in the 80s and the 90s where he was just everywhere.
New Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah,
That
you
is
know.
a Beverly Hills Cop.
But like he's another one that I would say like he's a movie star.
Oh, 100%.
You know, like he's got the star thing. Like everybody from our generation knows who Eddie Murphy is.
The Nutty Professor.
Yeah.
I mean, he played like 7 roles in that movie?
Yeah, and he was sort of, at least for me, I think he was the first one who kind of did that.
I think he was, one of the first big ones to do it.
You know, it's sort of become a thing now where there's been so many movies where, you know, people do that, but I feel like he was one of the first to do it.
I think so, and I think I remember hearing that, and because what I'm trying to think, like most of his family members he played.
Yeah.
Oh man, but he definitely is kind of an institution, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, you know. And then I'm not so good with pretty much anyone younger than probably about DiCaprio, sort of the 45, 46. I feel like I kind of stopped, you know, going to movies so much anymore, so I really don't know.
Well, it's not just that, but again, you have to figure these guys are still young, so they really haven't hit that movie star big level yet. I mean...
Well, that's the problem, right? It's sort of the movie star has just become watered down to mean almost nothing. Like, you hear about movie star where it's some 16-year-old kid on his second role, and the combined total screen time of both roles is 6 minutes. But he's a movie star now.
Well, true. So, I mean...
You know.
As time has gone on, the term definitely has been watered down, to be sure.
Yeah, to where it just feels, you know, when they're describing younger people, it just doesn't feel like they've sort of earned it at all, you know? Like, if you're on your first movie, it almost doesn't matter how big it is. I'm not sure you can call yourself a movie star.
No, I think it takes a couple movies or a breakout role.
You know, or just, you know, like, some longevity, right? Like... Otherwise, everybody who had a main role in Twilight is a movie star because those movies just never went the hell away.
True.
You know? They were everywhere. You couldn't avoid them, or the hype about them, the talk about them, and yet most of the people in them seem to have gone nowhere in their careers.
Yeah, I mean, isn't the guy going to play Batman next? Pattinson? Patterson?
Yeah.
Whatever his name is? I actually don't know his name.
I don't know either. I think he's one of the only ones who's had any vague success. Most of the other people, I think, have kind of cratered.
Or, you know, but actually, no, I got one for you. Because it just popped into my head because you were talking about the longevity factor of a career.
Yeah.
Lance Henriksen.
Ah, Lance. He's
80.
The thing with him, though, is he's kind of more of like a cult icon. Like, I'm not sure if you sort of said Lance Henriksen to the average person, they'd honestly know who that was.
No, he's a definite that guy. We're like, you know, the guy in Aliens. Like, oh, that guy.
Exactly. He's one of that guy. You know, I think people would actually recognize his face if you just showed them a picture more than his name.
I think so, but, I mean, to be fair, fantastic actor in a lot of things.
Oh yeah, I love Lance, but he's sort of another one of those weird, kind of cult movie stars.
Yeah, like, he never really had the huge Hollywood movie role. I mean, he was an Alien, but...
Yeah, but sort of as a side
he was like,
character.
Yeah, he was a side, B-story character.
Yeah, you know, so he never quite had that sort of breakout.
No, but because of the fact of his massive cult following, I would say movie star.
He sort of reminds me of Tim Curry.
Oh, God, Tim Curry. What a legend.
Exactly, you know, but again... I just don't know sort of if you said Tim Curry necessarily how many, especially sort of younger people, like any anybody younger than 30, would they know who Tim Curry is?
I mean, if you said Rocky Horror Picture Show, probably.
Yeah, but without that context.
Right. Although, I do have to
Maybe
say,
not.
what's one of my favorite Tim Curry movies, which will always be
What's that?
Clue.
Ah, yes.
I digress, but, and I think especially now because, his health has been so bad the past few years because of the stroke, he's really pulled out of the public eye.
Well, that's it. And that's sort of another thing that I think sort of factors into it. Like, once somebody stops acting, how quickly are they kind of forgotten?
And that's the thing, and I think the younger generation, I think, is starting to forget who Tim Curry is.
Yeah,
And
I
that's a
think,
shame.
yeah, if you're not sort of exposed to Rocky Horror, then, he's not making movies, hasn't for quite a few years. Sort of where are you going to see Tim Curry?
Yeah, unfortunately, you're really not.
For anybody who doesn't know, he did the absolutely hilarious. I think it was CNC games, computer games,
Oh, God, I forgot about that game.
which were really early sort of movie motion capture sort of the mix of real actors in really terrible CGI, early CGI cutscenes and
What
things.
was that one where he was like a Russian general and he was
That
laughing
was
through,
that one.
and he was laughing through the take?
Yes, I love that. Whenever I feel, like sad or down, I watch that one part where, I'm gonna go to one place that hasn't been infected by capitalism. Base!
Oh, and he was dying.
Yes, because the dialogue was so bad. There was a bunch of these games in like the maybe mid to late 90s where they had this new technology, but they really didn't know what to do with it.
No, they
And so
did.
they made these terrible, ham-fisted, poorly sort of dialogued, computer games, and yet they had major stars in them. Another one was a game called Ripper, which managed to get Christopher Walken.
I was gonna say I remember the one with Walken in it.
You know, really sort of unusual, especially if you go back and kind of look at the graphics now. Of course, it looks kind of horrendous, but yeah, sort of for some reason they pulled these huge stars to give these really ham-fisted performances.
I don't understand, but there it is.
Well, I mean, it kind of reminds me of your favorite sexy director.
You leave Uwe Boll out of this.
Like how did he get, Ben Kingsley
I don't know.
or anybody else? Like you could understand a couple of them, I'm not going to name any names, but a couple of the other guys who have kind of become infamous for money trouble.
Moving on.
But a lot of the actors weren't, and like Sir Ben Kingsley is a sir. He's won an Oscar. What are you doing?
I have no idea what he was thinking, but it happened.
So it was kind of like the early computer game version of that, where you're just like, what?
Pretty much.
But yeah, if anybody wants to, see some funny Tim Curry stuff, YouTube for that stuff.
Oh man, it was too funny. Like
It was
held people up.
amazing. But again, yeah, sort of more cult star these days.
I think so, but I think at this point, have the lines between like cult star and movie star kind of blended?
I think for some people, yeah. And then it's sort of interesting to see some stars sort of move from one to the other.
Yeah, like maybe focusing more on like, indie stuff and weird projects than the big Hollywood blockbusters.
Or vice versa, or just to sort of have a late career rebirth. I mean, I'm thinking of someone like RDJ.
Mm.
Like if you grew up in the late 80s and 90s, poor RDJ had a hard go of it.
Yeah.
He wasn't getting attention for good reasons.
No. But then
And so it
I
was
remember when
kind of,
and I remember when they first announced that he was going to be Iron Man.
Yeah,
and I was
everybody.
skeptical.
I mean, people were skeptical if he would even complete the shoot, right?
At that
That
point,
that was kind of where his career or sort of his infamy was at.
unfortunately for him, yeah,
Yeah,
uh, Downey really did take a tumble.
and then of course now he's had this insane
Resurgence. I mean, you talk about
mega
comeback.
star rebirth courtesy of Marvel.
Hey, so he was Iron Man, and then I think he left the Marvel franchise. I think he did Doctor Doolittle.
Yeah, and Sherlock. He did those Sherlock Holmes
I
movies.
liked them. They were actually good because I like Jude Law.
I watched the first one and liked it. It was interesting. I didn't see the second one.
But actually, but I think I would probably put him as a movie star.
I think
Even
he
even
is now.
before,
Yeah.
even before, I don't know. You could have made an argument even before.
Mm.
Well, I mean, he did have notoriety.
Yeah, he was the Hollywood bad boy.
Yeah, so well, maybe that would be like more cult status.
Yeah. Um, I guess that brings up the other infamous Hollywood bad boy,
Oh God, which one?
Winning,
Oh boy, good old
Tiger
Charlie.
Blood.
Yeah, good old Charlie.
You can't argue that he's a star.
Um, no, you cannot. I tried to, but I mean,
Yeah,
he has had some, you know, pretty good iconic roles.
that's the thing. I mean, he's kind of become more infamous than famous. Obviously, he's again meme status.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
But
he actually can act when he wants to.
well, that's the thing, right? Like he did do some good movies when he was young.
Wall Street
Yeah,
with his old man.
so but he's sort of again sort of the bad boy
Yeah,
who's a, who's kind of had a resurgence, but unfortunately, obviously his demons kind of got the best of him again. So he's kind of had that up down.
and the thing is, his up down isn't like a slow thing; it is a crashing down.
Oh yeah, it's the roller coaster going way up and then way down.
Oh yeah.
Um, so he's sort of there. Johnny Depp.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about him.
Aside from that, again, you're sort of looking at a guy who, you know, monstrous talent and yet just sometimes can't seem to get out of his own way.
I think that's the best way to put it. He cannot get out of his own way.
But became so famous with all the Pirates movies, megastar.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, and he does have some acting chops.
I think he's great. I mean, people always said that he was basically like a younger version of Gary Oldman. I mean, he chose the same kind of strange roles.
I could see that because I think really the first thing I remember seeing him in that I was like, wow, this guy can act was What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Yeah, Edward Scissorhands,
Oh, what a movie!
you
And
know, but it,
just real quick, and because this actually involves who I consider to be another movie star, we'll do the real old guard in another episode.
mm,
Vincent Price was supposed to have a much bigger role in that film.
was he?
Yeah, but unfortunately, he was so sick by that point. That was all that they could get out of him. His health had declined, and I think he passed away not long after that movie came out.
Oh, that's too bad.
But so that might be where some of like the slightly younger than us but older than the kids these days would know him from.
Yeah,
But
probably.
that man had a legendary career. And again, we'll talk
Yeah,
about like the real old timers later.
yeah.
But
Um,
Johnny Depp, I don't know. I think when you buy into your own stardom is when problems start to happen.
well, that was sort of the thing, and frankly, the pairing with Tim Burton hasn't actually been very good for him at all.
No, I would say
Not
not.
recently, because they've done all these sort of odd movies. Sort of think of Willy Wonka.
Oh God, that was terrible.
Yeah, and just a lot of sort of really bad movies, and then of course then he sort of bought into the whole thing where it seemed to be that he actually thought he was Jack Sparrow because he basically played Jack Sparrow in The Lone Ranger.
Yeah, I was thinking that like he like took it a little too far.
Yeah, so I think he's the thing is, I think he sort of got knocked down and then he started trying to act again. Like, if you haven't seen Black Mass, that was really good.
Black Mass. I don't think I have actually.
That was the one where he plays Whitey Bulger.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen it, but I know what it is now.
Yeah. For anybody who doesn't know, Whitey Bulger was an infamous Boston gangster
Yeah, and they got him in the end.
slash FBI informant.
Yeah, exactly. Spoiler alert: they got him eventually.
Yeah. But that was sort of, that was his one of his sort of comeback roles after, after he'd sort of been knocked down by these terrible movies back to back to back to back.
Oh man, his career was really tanking.
And actually another one who I'd put in there, and I think they're probably close in age, is Will Smith.
Okay, I mean,
Put in there in terms of like Will Smith again. You're talking about a guy who made like the movie star in the '90s and even into the early '00s. But I mean, look at his career over the past decade or so.
what's he really done?
Like mostly he's become infamous for like After Earth, that movie where he played with his son. That was
Oh,
garbage.
that was not very good. I did watch it, but it wasn't very good.
Suicide Squad, which was garbage.
Well, they didn't let him talk.
No, there's that. But just unfortunately, just bad picks. Like, just doesn't seem to get the roles anymore.
No, well,
When you sort of compare what he did, like Independence Day, Men in Black.
oh, dude, Independence Day was huge.
Yeah, like he was everywhere in the '90s.
Bad Boys.
Yeah. Um. So I feel like he's kind of another one of these guys where he's kind of on that low end of his career. You act for so long, I guess it can be hard to remain relevant.
Well, that's the thing because every year more and more people start coming into movies,
Yeah,
and you
and
know
he's
how fickle audiences are.
well, that's it. And you get on. Maybe you're not as actiony as you were, and you were 25.
Exactly. When you were, now at 50 something, you're not as spry as you were at 28. So,
Yeah, yeah, he's 52.
wow, that's crazy.
That's really weird to think about.
I still remember Fresh Prince.
Yeah, so, I guess if they want, action stars, there's a lot of young guys for that.
Well, and that's the thing, and especially now with they're really doing a lot more CGI stuff. They can bring in anybody and make them a star.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, you always hope for Will Smith, You
I
could
do too.
see
I kind of like him.
the yeah, the flickers of resurgence. Like he did The Pursuit of Happiness, but that was way back in
Yeah,
2006.
that was a while ago.
But that was sort of like his career was already kind of struggling, and then he did that, and that was amazing acting.
Mm.
And then he kind of hit a slump again, and then I'd say maybe the Bad Boys that just released is kind of the first successful movie he's done in a while.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, Pursuit of Happiness was a great movie.
Yeah. So hopefully, less After Earths, and then there was that other one where he played the like de-aged version of himself.
DH version. Oh, I know. I cannot. I'm blanking on it.
I gotta check. What was it? I'm on IMDb.
Well, you keep doing that, and I'll prattle on. But that's the thing, and but it's like, what happened in between Men in Black and kind of mediocrity?
Um, just a lot of kind of weird stuff. Like Men in Black 2, I can't remember it too much, but I don't think it was very good.
Um,
Um, He
God, I
did
don't
I,
remember.
Robot, which I don't think was very good.
No, I watched iRobot. It wasn't bad, but it was what it was.
He did the voice work in Shark Tale, which was kind of awful and also just felt like a desperate sort of knockoff of superior Pixar movies.
And Cash Grab.
Yeah. Then he had the two good movies in the sort of 2006, 2007, The Pursuit of Happiness and I Am Legend. Both of those were good.
I didn't mind I Am Legend. I thought that came out later though.
But then he followed it up with Hancock, where I think that's the one where he plays a weird
Oh
superhero
yeah,
thing.
the drunk angry superhero.
Then Men in Black 3, then After Earth.
Oof.
Then, a few others that I've never even heard of. Then Suicide Squad.
Oof.
Bright, that weird movie where he played a cop with sort of orc-looking other cops.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Then Aladdin, where, I mean, it
Oof.
was always going to be hard to follow in the shoes of Robin Williams, but then there was the whole thing where it was just weird because it was basically just Will Smith painted blue.
Yeah, I didn't even see it, and I don't really want to. The live
Neither
action
do.
version of the Disney movies don't seem to be doing very well.
No, the one I was thinking of is Gemini Man,
Oh god, I remember that movie. It wasn't very good.
where he no, because it's sort of the de-aging technology isn't good enough to have like a full-length movie. You can use it for a few seconds,
Mm,
but it's kind of uncanny valley.
yeah.
After more than a couple seconds, and especially, like full upfront shots of somebody's face for long periods.
Yeah, it doesn't really work.
It's not quite there yet, so it was just sort of weird from the start. It's not his fault, but it people were kind of put off by the movie for that reason. It also, from what I remember, it used a weird frame rate for its filming, and I think it actually made people a little motion sick.
Could be. I'm usually
I remember
prone to that. I really don't remember.
I remember sort of reading something about that where
It wouldn't surprise me.
there's something in the decision of sort of the speed of framing just is a little bit weird as well.
Yeah, that is weird.
But that's sort of what happened to Will Smith is just he did little movies that nobody heard of, and unfortunately every time he got a big movie that maybe on paper sounded like it was going to be a big thing, like Suicide Squad was certainly hyped to hell,
Mm, yeah, it was.
it kind of blew up in everybody's face.
Unfortunately. It could have been
You know,
good, but they went the wrong way with it.
yeah, him most of all, being one of the most recognizable people in a lot of these movies.
Well, that's the thing. One of the most recognizable people, and they kept him under a mask and didn't let him talk.
Yes.
Like, what the hell's the point?
Yeah, pretty much. So I guess we'll see. He's got some movies coming out.
Exactly. And that's so and I think it's probably about that age where we really haven't seen the next crop of what could we consider movie stars.
No, because there's guys who are ultra famous now. Like mostly, you're looking at like the crop of the younger Marvel stars, like Chris Hemsworth, uh, whoever played Spider-Man.
Oh god, I just blanked on his name. Is it Andrew Garfield? No, he was in the
No,
movie. Tom
yeah, he
Tom
was.
something. I can't
Uh,
remember. I'm sorry.
yeah,
If you're
yeah, I
listening to
don't
this, I'm
know.
sorry.
But like all them, Tom Hiddleston who played Loki, like
Mm,
they're all really famous, but it's all kind of based on just one role stretched over a long period, but one role.
unfortunately, you're not wrong.
Like so it would just be nice to see different things. Like, can you be a movie star if you're not playing Thor or in a Marvel movie?
Right, and honestly, weirdly, it was that movie. What was the movie where Schwarzenegger's daughter was a zombie?
Maggie. I
Maggie.
really like that movie.
Because that showed he actually can kind of do like a serious role.
I was really impressed by that. I watched it as a fluke because I was curious about him. It was sort of the first drama that he'd done, almost ever, especially in a long time, and I really wanted to see could he do it. And I really recommend it. It's an interesting movie. It's sort of entertaining. It's kind of a much more quiet, cerebral version of something like 28 Days Later. Like you kind of have that non-zombie zombie virus, but it doesn't have the big action. It's all sort of very sort of quiet, very into the dialogue, into the subtle acting.
And I do have to say, actually, speaking of that, the on-screen chemistry with him and the actress who played his daughter, and I'm blanking on her name. I should know it because I've seen her in a lot of stuff.
Mm.
But anyway, it was very believable, very organic.
Yeah, it was Abigail Breslin.
That's it. I was like, I've seen her in so much stuff. Okay, Abigail Breslin, but you know the final scene when she realizes that she's giving into it and he's down there sleeping, and just the subtle motions he does. It's like, man, that's
Yeah,
really
so
good.
if you want to see him, like see him really act, watch the movie because yeah, he's. I think a lot of people would be impressed. I don't think a lot of people even know about the movie. It's from 2015 and it just sort of flew under everybody's radar.
It did. All right. So now, as we start to wind this one down,
Hmm.
let's re-go over our criteria, and this is what you can hopefully take and apply to the next generation. You're talking big iconic roles
Yeah,
and the combination of wanting and really enjoying the media attention.
yeah.
The
Like you
star
have to have
power.
the star part.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But, I mean, you can enjoy the media and not be a star. Like
Yeah.
every reality show ever.
Well, that's it.
So, on that vein, I mentioned to you earlier I had a secret one I was saving.
Okay.
And we're going to close it out when. Let's see where you would want to categorize him.
All right.
Mel Brooks.
Oh man. I mean,
Because,
for me, the thing is, I mostly know him as a director.
right, but don't forget, he also was in the movies.
Yeah, but
He had good roles in a lot of his movies.
he did. But it's just like you think of Mel Brooks, you think of all the movies more that that he directed.
Right. But,
So for me, I don't
but
know.
here's why I say everybody knows him.
That's true.
Mel Brooks is an institution.
Yeah,
And he loves the fame.
it's true. So I guess, yeah, I mean, he's sort of weird because he'd be, I guess, the part of, for me at least, the movie stars.
Right.
And I think directors can be movie stars as well.
Yeah, because look at some of his iconic acting roles. Dracula Dead and Loving It.
That's true.
He was hilarious in Dracula Dead and Loving It.
I love that movie.
He was. What else was he in? He was the rabbi in Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Yep.
He wasn't really in Young Frankenstein,
Hmm.
but he was, big part in Blazing Saddles, big, huge part in Spaceball. Well, not big, huge part. He had a good part in Spaceballs.
Yeah, but I mean, even just as a director, I think, them making the movies
Oh
and,
my god, he has made some of the funniest movies ever.
and especially nowadays, sort of having to do all the press stuff. Like the directors do as much press as the actors do.
But I think I would say it's a combination of one, his fame, and two, his age, because he's 94.
Yeah, so he managed to be famous in an era where maybe they weren't so interested in talking to the directors as much.
Right, and also, I mean, you look at the relationship he has with other actors, mainly because a lot of them now get the chance to let loose.
Yeah.
He had his core that he hired. He was a real big fan of Harvey Korman, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Gene Wilder, may he rest in peace.
Yep.
But when he would get like a big name actor, and they could just cut loose.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
who
it was just
in
fun.
Dracula Dead and Loving It? Who played Renfield? Peter
Good.
McNichol?
Yeah.
You could tell he was having fun.
Oh, yeah. It's
Renfield,
just
I
silly.
fly, you do not. Out of course. Plus, the back and forth between him and Leslie Nielsen was just phenomenal.
Exactly. Like, people just, you could have fun.
And so that, I will close and I will say, arguably, one of the biggest stars alive today, Mel Brooks.
Yep. Absolutely.
So there you go. That was an interesting topic. I'm glad we did that. And I think we're going to definitely come back at some point in the future and revisit it with the female actors, because
The ladies.
I've got a list of some big name actresses I respect.
Yep.
Granted, a lot of them have Dame in front of their name, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, exactly.
Helen Mirren is amazing, and that's my closing thought. What do you want to part with?
Go watch all of Al's movies.
Hoo-ah.
Yeah, hoo-ah.
But on that one, for the carnival, I am Zach.
I'm Roy.
Go watch some movies, dig deep into the 80s, and start making your own list of who you consider to be movie stars, and let us know if there's any we missed. So until next week, take it easy, stay safe, and stay in touch.